Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching this episode. This is another episode of Backyard Chains, our disc golf podcast, brought to you by Backyard Sports. My name's Raul Herrera, and I got Gary Freeze with me. How are you tonight, Gary?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Excited to hear your thoughts on the first event of the weekend here, or first event of the season.
Yeah, it feels good to be back. We got a little taste of it at the All-Stars. There's been some drama in the last couple weeks. I'm interested in talking about it for sure. Senior, always a pleasure to see you. I like this new little template thing I tried out too. Just changing it up a little bit. It feels good. Anyways, so let's just jump right into the FPO. I want to be able to just I want to cover some of the notables here. Let me pull up that real quick. And I just did it again, didn't I? Yeah, there we go. My bad. Thank you, Gary.
Got you, bro.
So we need to go FPO. So the other one. There we go.
Sorry.
All right. So big notable here, obviously, Katrina Allen taking down her second Las Vegas challenge in a row. We had some folks kind of getting in their bag. There was a big charge there at the end for Ella Hansen to kind of make a statement. But some notables here, Kona's well into her contract with Dynamic Discs, and she finished +1, 939 rated to finish 15th, or tied for 15th. I've said this for 2 seasons since she started with Dynamic Discs, but I feel like she has proven that she's overrated for the contract she was given. I think she was given 4 years, 500,000, something like that. It was a pretty decent contract, and she's not proving to have been worth it. They made 2 big investments that offseason, the other one being in the MPO card with Ricky Wysocki, 4 years, $4 million. And that's done well. He bowed out of the All-Star game. He's nursing an injury. He bowed out of Las Vegas Challenge last minute, which is also, a last minute kind of thing with him, but he's still prominent and he did very well last year, back with the Latitude family. So anyways, kind of disappointed in Kona. Maria Oliva, first season with ThoughtSpace, did well. Tied solo 11th place. And then the rest, you're looking at the same faces, right? So Jennifer Allen, Owen Scoggins, Jessica Weiss, Haley King, her second year with Innova, Henna Blumroos, Holland Hanley, Missy Gannon, Holland Hanley recently changing over. And then Katrina Allen, I believe her second year with DGA, taking down the win. This is 2 Las Vegas Challenge wins in a row for Katrina Allen here in Las Vegas, and also Vegas with her new sponsor, having been with Prodigy and winning World Championship with Prodigy. So, anyways, it's a big moment for her to continue to make a statement. But let's not forget, the reason why we're looking at. There's one name in particular, I think, in the FPO that all of the FPO players are probably really glad they're not seeing, and that's Kristen Tatar. Hands down the most standout player of last season, world champion, and absolutely dominated the FPO last season. I mean, it was insane the amount of wins she collected, and she's not here yet. She's hanging out in Europe. She's finishing up her off season, and we'll see her soon. But FPO, enjoy it while you can. But as soon as Kristen's back in, it's gonna be some pretty serious golf and competition. Anyways, so let's get into the MPO. And this one, it was pretty all over the place. What we got to see was thanks, Senior. I appreciate it. What we got to see this go around is some important statements. We got some folks in their new bag this year. One of the most notable here towards the bottom is Nico LaCastro, tied for 17th, his first year with Lone Star Discs. This is his first season back after he gets a big suspension for doing some just unnecessary shit. And You know, he kind of hit rock bottom between his suspension, losing most of his sponsors. I'll say Flight Club's still with him, but you know, starting fresh with Lone Star Discs, he's spoken very highly about the plastic and the quality, and they've taken on some big names as well in the off season to support Chandler Kramer there with Team Lone Star.
No blowups this weekend.
No blowups this weekend. He played good golf. He looked confident out there. Even his pregame stuff looked good. Some other notables here. Garrett Gurthey, look, it's a bomber course. You know Garrett Gurthey's going to be out there doing his thing. He typically does well. You know, his short game has always been his biggest struggle. James Proctor, I think his second year. Good to see you, Dieter. I believe it's his second year away from Innova. And then Eagle McMahon. So Eagle McMahon finishing 13th, but on the lead card in the final round. And I mean, kind of a disheartening performance because he's as prolific as as everyone thinks he is. And so I hope that nobody loses sight of that. Eagle McMahon is no doubt going to be a problem this year. I think he lost a lot of his time. For those of you guys that don't know, he dislocated his shoulder. He had been nursing some shoulder and elbow injuries for the greater part of last season, and so he bowed out relatively early. But let's not forget that this man is fully capable of bombing 550, 600. He has parked a 700-foot hole for eagle. He's an absolute monster. So let's not think that this last he kind of fell apart there at the end. But you know, I think given the fact that Team Discmania is down Simon Lizotte this year, Eagle McMahon is still a problem. And he is a top 5 disc golfer going into this year, I think, even having missed as much as he did last year. So let's get into the top 10. So Anthony Barella.
Oh, excuse me.
He's tied with 8, and he was also on the lead card. This is his first year away from longtime sponsor Innova, his first year with Discraft. He was pretty outward about it. He's still learning the plastic. I mean, there was so much wind on the course this week. Having to get familiar with his bag was going to be an obstacle, period. It was going to be very difficult to be able to understand and know your discs that well in that much headwind. A lot of the wind was picking up right at the beginning or the latter end of when these guys were practicing on the course. And then it's always been inconsistent. It'll die for a few minutes and then it'll be gust of 25 plus. And so it was a difficult round, but even in his struggling moments, he was still top 3 up until the very last few holes where he absolutely came apart. But, you know, I think it's hard to keep the engine going when you know you're out of the running for a podium finish. Emerson Keith, his first year with Lone Star Discs, tied for 8th with Anthony Barella. He put on a show. He's looking good. He looks comfortable with his plastic already. Listen, the wins that we're talking about, you know, for the novice disc golfer, these are things that we could never try to accomplish the goals that what we're seeing here. And these guys are managed to control 400, 450 rather than 500, 550, but calling their lane. I mean, they're calling their lines and placing them where they go. And we get to see that at the most elite level once we get here up to probably, yeah, I mean, we're kind of there. Matt O, longtime Southern National disc golfer champion. He's won lots of stuff, and this is his second year with Westside Discs. So it's going to be awesome to see how he's coming into his own with his new sponsor, having left Prodigy a couple years ago. So it's I'm looking forward to Matty O kind of doing his thing. Corey Ellis, he's kind of coming into his own. Last season, I think, was a really true breakout season for him with Team Discraft. He's got one of the best standstill drives in the game, period. There's no run up. It's just a buzz or a buzz SS that he is throwing on the flattest line that holds the flattest line for the longest, flattest amount of time. I mean, we're talking about 500 footers that this dude can bomb down line for, you know, having taken one step. It's incredible. So, anyways, let's jump into Matt Bell, longtime putter. Of course, he's going to do well being able to putt well in the wind. He's picked up his distance. He's also with Thought Space now. Zach Arlinghouse. And then Paul McBeast, 6-time was scaring the top 5 the entire last round. He was or his entire last 2 rounds. He was chasing the card the entire way, and I think what we saw out of the top 2 cards were especially Ezra's performance was fantastic. Kevin Jones was lights out. We'll get to go those guys soon, but I mean, look, Paul is not. He's not going anywhere. I mean, he's a 6-time. There is a complete chance. We're looking at the Patriots era in the NFL. Like Paul Macbeth can pick apart any championship this year and make it his. Period. Every major worlds do not count him out ever. So Drew Gibson, the reigning up until this last weekend, reigning champion of the Las Vegas Challenge, doing well with Infinity. He's got his finish line, discs line taken off, which is awesome. And he did well. I mean, last year, what we saw from him in his playoff with Gannon Burr was incredible. It's one of the best playoff victories we've seen in some time. And he did his thing. But what we were seeing up here at the top 4, Kyle Klein also tied another year with Discmania. But Kevin Jones, for me, is kind of the story. He is the statement in all this. Look, Calvin being Team Innova, being the solo, in my opinion, the solo star with Team Innova, it's important that he gets this W. But Kevin Jones, for me, makes this. Ezra Aderhold, I'll just briefly say he did his thing on the course. He did a phenomenal job of maintaining his control, because this dude can also bomb, but having that control in these headwinds and getting the good win readings and being conservative in your layups is how you win this tournament. And Kevin Jones did that too well. He managed to maintain this lead that was fantastic. It was strong. It was dominant. Everyone would struggle. He played his game, and it went well. I mean, everything that he called most of his shots. He was able to scramble out when he needed to, but if he took a 4 on a par 4, it was by design. He laid up shot 1 and 2, and then he made his approach that he needed to make for his par putt. That's what he did. Where we saw this fall apart was on hole 16. There was an opportunity in the final round of this game where, in this match, there was an opportunity on his second shot to make the call and go for gold on the birdie. He had a 1-stroke lead over Calvin Heimberg going into hole 16. And fortunately for Calvin, Kevin had to go first. He laid up wisely just to concede the birdie and secure the par and on to the next one, where he would, look to gather the next stroke. And Calvin was farther than him off the drive, and then still had a close enough approach to really go for it. But he had water hazard right. It was going to be a narrow window and a direct headwind. And the man parked a 400-foot shot 15 feet from the basket and just surprised everybody at this point to make this birdie putt and now take a stroke to even the score between Kevin Jones and Calvin Heimberg. And from there, I mean, it goes to a nail biter 18th hole, right? But before I even talk about the ending, I just want to say Kevin Jones has been in the spotlight unfairly, I think is the best way to put it. He was kind of, what is that? I mean, what do you call that? Innocent bystander. He was just caught in the crossfire. He caught a stray in a series of memes because there's legal litigation going on between Gannon Burr and Prodigy Discs, stating that if Gannon Burr were to terminate his contract or to, null and void his contract, citing a breach of contract, that Prodigy would be without any high-level PDGA athletes, which is an absolute slap in the face. That you're going to say that your whole company lies on the shoulders of this 17-year-old kid, but not Kevin Jones, who has won Elite Series. He's won Silver Series. He has won big name tournaments. He is a problem every single year. He's always in the top 10. Like it's disrespectful to say that. He was in the World Championships when the holy shot was made with James Conrad. He was on the lead card. Like, let's not talk about it's so rude of Prodigy. And it just, I feel like it was super transparent of Prodigy Disc to say what they said. For the simple fact that, you know, we now know what their intentions were. We know where Prodigy's focus was, and that was Gannon Burr. Kevin Jones was just going to be the next team captain in line, right? And yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in Prodigy. I think that the way that situation's being handled is sad. Gannon Burr finishing with a 30th, I think, in the Las Vegas Challenge.
So I was reading up on the lawsuit, and apparently, like, Prodigy didn't make him one of his 2 signature discs that they promised.
Yep.
They didn't make him a Rookie of the Year disc, which happens, right, when you win
Yep.
Rookie of the Year for every other company, apparently.
And it's also on the contract.
Yeah, they didn't pay him any part of his bonus, and he said they make shit discs,
Yeah.
which was confirmed in a conversation that he had with the aforementioned Kevin Jones when Kevin Jones said they were boring discs.
Yeah, well, and you know, they're talking about quality defects too, which, you know, a lot of guys have said that's not unknown. That's not unknown. I mean, I've bought a harder plastic A2 that I needed to sand down so that I didn't get sliced every time, you know, every time I'm trying to like fan grip, you know. And so anyways, yeah, I can see the arguments. I think that there was some, you know, there were some reaches in the arguments between both sides, but ultimately this has been the going problem for Prodigy. You know, there's rumors that this also happened with Chris Dickerson's exit. There's rumors that it happened with Matty O. There's a lot. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some type of, you know, issue with Katrina Allen. I mean, that was a world champion. So there's just a lot, I think, that goes into that. Prodigy is on the downward spiral, I think, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But so going into hole 18, classic. I mean, this is an iconic hole in disc golf. We've seen world championships won on this hole, and so we have now Kevin Jones goes out of bounds off the drive. So
that's not where you want to be,
you know? And so listen, Calvin's shot was not any better, to be honest. It was luckier. He admits that it was not the line he intended, but he gets the good skip and he gets the break just on the other side of the curb to make his par approach, essentially, assuming that Kevin doesn't try to get squirrely and go for gold. And so we see that happen. Basically, KJ concedes the victory over to Calvin. He goes through his formality par to secure the victory and now become a 2-time champion at the Las Vegas Challenge, sponsored by Innova. So taking over 2 courses in 4 days. It was another great victory from Calvin Heimberg on an already incredible rise. You know, he was a top 5 disc golfer last year, and I believe the year before. He likely will be this year. Yeah, it's just an interesting time in disc golf to see kind of the new wave of talent that's really coming up. And Calvin's been a problem for, you know, probably 3 or 4 years now. But, you know, Gannon coming into his own, we're seeing a lot of people that are coming up. You know, this new wave of talent, like I've talked about, it's going to be incredible. I mean, just looking at last year, what happened between Aaron Gossage and Paul Macbeth, you know, it really is anybody's game. And I think that Simon Lizotte proved that he's still going to be a problem, even though he's with MVP now throwing gyroplastic. I think that Eagle McMahon is just a sleeping beast. Like, he is, as soon as he's woken, as soon as he's good, as soon as he gets comfortable, which I think honestly it won't happen in Waco. I think it'll happen probably 2 or 3 events into the tour. And so let me just pull up the schedule here so I can try to pin something down a little more specific. But anyways, I don't think Waco is one of those courses, which we'll talk about next week. Waco is one of those courses that just ruins people's lives. You know, when they play McBeast right alongside the river, the Brazos River, and you've got that headwind. It's Las Vegas Challenge, but wooded. And so, yeah, it's tough to watch for, if your favorite player is struggling there, then it's tough to watch. I would look to see him do well, um, probably by Jonesboro or Music City Open there in Nashville. But between now and then, we've got the Las Vegas Challenge, which is now over. They're going to Waco in 2 weeks, and then next week the next week after that, the Open in Austin, Texas, which is going to be a new event to the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It is going to be interesting to watch him bounce back and then shake up the top rankings, because he wasn't present enough last year to be somebody that, or to be enough of a problem anyways.
So question for you before we transition to your next topic here. Is it usually this much of a gap between the top and the bottom on the women's side versus the men's side is pretty, right? There's only 11 shots really that separated the top from the bottom on the men's side. There's like 30 almost shots on the women's side. Is it like that? Is there just like elite women and then kind of everybody else?
I would say that the card's usually closer than that. I think the conditions had a lot to do with the outcome.
Okay.
I think the reason, I'm trying to think, but I want to say minus 38 or 36 last year. I may need to look that up.
So it was just extra windy this year.
Oh, it was miserable. Yeah. Yeah, it was absolutely miserable. I'm trying to find it. But anyways, February. There we go. I'm trying to find the results from it. But anyways, I want to say it was 36 under for the MPO. The wind conditions were a lot more favorable. And so this is known as a bomber course, but when you're trying to bomb 550 in a headwind, a lot of guys just can't do it. There's some that still can, Garrett Gerthy can still throw. Anthony Barella probably has, in my opinion, I think he's got the most powerful drive in disc golf right now. And then, Calvin Heimberg's still a slingshot. Kevin Jones is still capable of throwing that low flip up hyzer to just push for forever. He just does it with a more stable disc. It's incredible, honestly, but there's select few that can do that in any, it doesn't matter your gender. Anyways. All right. So back into the final results here is that we get to see Vinny take home gold early in the season, which is nice. In the points, it's going to be good. It'll be a good boost for him to start. He hasn't, I don't know that he definitely hasn't won Waco. I believe he's top 10 Waco quite a few times. Nobody's played the Open at Austin. So, and then he won Jonesboro last year. So he's got some courses coming up that he's going to be really familiar with, and he's going to be comfortable winning. I just want to see the difference in what he was last year versus where he is now. I feel like, there's a couple guys that talked about it, about his constant choking when things get tough. And it sounds abrasive or aggressive to say that. So I don't mean that in any negative way, other than he just falls apart at some very key moments in some very big tournaments. If you look at the man's stats, he's top 10 like 90% of the season. He's top 5 probably 60% of the season. So he's always in the hunt. The man's on lead card coverage all last year. But oh, man, just the ability to execute sometimes and just keep it together when the wheels start to fall off is really going to be the difference maker, because he's got all the other tools and he's not typically rattled, but his rattle, I don't know, the throws, it's what it is. This man hits 5 or 6 circle 2 putts in the last round, which is, that's when he's known to win championships. That's when he's known to take home events and be at the number 1 spot at the top of the podium, is when he's hitting 45 footers with zero effort and then walking up to the next tee on a 1,000-foot par 5 and bombing at 575. getting ready to set up an eagle opportunity. I mean, this is classic Calvin. The man can strike. He can throw Florida golf and play in the woods. He can throw the bombs. He's the most well-rounded disc golfer, I believe, in the game, period. And so if anybody has anything to say about that, please add me in these comments because I'm here for it. But anyways, it's good. I'm happy to see him take home a W early. So Disc Golf Pro Tour looks fucking sick this year. We've got a lot of stuff coming up this year that I'm really looking forward to. The PCS Open, of course, in Norway is going to be amazing. And then other than that, you still got your classics, your Maple Hills, your Ledgestones. The Preserve is going to be great. The Des Moines Challenge was also good. There's going to be some good ones. The Open at Austin and I think the PCS Sula Open are going to be my favorites to watch this year. That was really fun. I really want to watch the European Championship as well. I know there's going to be quite a few guys leaving in the middle of the tour to go to Europe. And during that Norway leg, they're going to hit some of the other tournaments down there. So it'll be awesome. So anyways, on to the next. Let's see. If I haven't already said shame on Prodigy, I just want to reiterate that. Like, Prodigy really, really screwed the pooch, and it's kind of embarrassing. Anyways. All right, so I want to get to the most important part of our show. For those of you guys that are new to the show, we appreciate you watching. My name is Raul Herrera. This is Gary Fries. We served in the Navy together on the same ship. We have every single episode of our podcast, every single podcast we host is dedicated to a fallen service member in our Folds of Honor sponsored segment called our Salute to Service. This episode is going to be dedicated to Army Specialist William J. Tracy, who passed away February 25th, 2003, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was 27 years old, of New Hampshire, assigned to B Company, 5th Battalion, 158th Aviation, Aviano Air Base, Italy. And he was killed in a UH-60 Black Hawk crash in Kuwait. Army Specialist William J. Tracy. We have the watch. So, I think the only thing left to do now is we're probably going to need to get into some cat facts because I feel like I stacked a whole bunch of shit in there. And one way or another, we got to dive into it. So let's do it. I got out of it early. My bad. Anyways, so let's jump into the cat facts. Anthony Barella will be top 10 this season. I feel like he crept up on the rankings last year. Anthony Barella is known for his bombs. What is his biggest Achilles heel? Putting. I'm not going to compare him to others. I'm just going to say he misses significantly more in-circle putts than any other relevant disc golfer in the top 10. That is his biggest hindrance. He can throw controlled, long-distance shots. His mid-range game is little but fair, and he's got a solid and powerful forehand. There's no reason why he shouldn't be a top 5 disc golfer except for his putting. His putting is his biggest Achilles heel, and I think the difference is going to be, is he going to cling well to his putters with his new plastic in his bag with Discraft? If the answer to that is yes, then the answer to this cap facts is yes. But right now, I'm going to say that it's cap. Anthony Barella will not be top 10 this season. I saw the same issues in this round, in this tournament that I saw last year. And it didn't have to do with the plastic. I think that I think that Anthony Barella's probably spent enough time with Adam Hammis, another Discraft teammate, that he's probably thrown a few nukes. And so to blame his new bag on this is concerning, I think, for me. But I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Sure, I'll give it to him. But do I think he's going to be top 10 this year? No. It just all comes down to the putting. So on to the next one. Calvin Heimberg wins his first major this year. So there are definitely going to be some opportunities. He's come into it. He's come into his own. Does he win his first major this year? If you guys have any opinions, I'd love to hear them. But I think he does win his first. I think this is facts. I think that he takes this down. I think he ends up another year on the main card for on the lead card of the World Championships. I think that he's going to continue. I think that he's just going to continue to be this dominant player that's going to improve. I think he's too cerebral in his game. I think what we saw this past weekend, it was a chess game, and he took a calculated risk on hole 16, knowing that Kevin Jones had laid up for his par. He took a calculated risk that if he had gauged this headwind incorrectly, he goes out of bounds and he loses the tournament. This was all or nothing. This is the typical Vinny that we see on GK Pro Skins talking about no guts, no glory, or greed is a very real thing, and then banging in a 70-footer to win the skins. Like, this is the Vinny we know and love. So yeah, I think that Vinny does take home his first major this year. I think it's going to be, and I think it's not going to be much of a surprise. Cap Facts Prodigy will fall out of relevance this year. So this might piss a few people off. I know quite a few people that throw Prodigy. I don't know a lot of people that throw exclusive Prodigy that aren't sponsored by them. But I think that this is Cap, but I also feel like they're going to focus enough on the marketing to turn this around. But make no mistake, how public this Gannon Burr exit is turning out to be is not a good look on Prodigy. The fact that they publicly, through exposure, have now publicly, kind of side-chicked Kevin Jones as a result of this Gannon Burr discussion. It is concerning, man. They've lost all of their star power. Gannon was their only one left, according to Prodigy. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Okay, this one's purely. I'm going facts here. This is a softball that I'm laying up for myself because I'm going to stand on a soapbox. I'm going to call it now just so that I'm on the record. Gannon Burr is going to sign with Innova. I could totally be wrong. There could have been an article that was released today that I missed, but I know he's throwing technically an open bag now, although I believe he's still throwing almost exclusively Prodigy. It's going to be interesting, but I feel like Gannon Burr and Calvin Heimberg together on Team Innova is an unstoppable force. I mean, those guys are gonna kill. They're gonna kill tournaments. They're gonna win events. These are bombers. They can throw putts. They can do all of it. Gannon Burr's so young, and having, being an understudy with Calvin would be a really great opportunity for him to kind of hone in and work together. So that's a good one. So Eagle McMahon is as good or better this year following his injury. I'm basically asking the general populace here, has Eagle McMahon peaked? Because we've seen some, truly prolific disc golf come from Eagle McMahon in the last few years. His victory at the European Open, it is incredible. So is he as good or better? Has he peaked? I think that this is facts. There's no way that you could say that this shoulder injury will completely hinder him. I mean, he's been willing now, and he's been learning the last few seasons. And executing left-handed throws to make up for not being able to use his forehand to the full capability. And, for those of you guys that aren't familiar with disc golf, Eagle McMahon can throw 350 to 400 or 500 feet with a forehand in the right wind and downhill. This man can bomb forehand. And so having that not in his bag, he's had to rely on the left hand. He's done really well with the left hand. We saw some issues in general, I think, just maybe not even with the mechanics, but just with his judgment calls. He was throwing his more stable splices maybe whenever he should have thrown something a little bit flippier. Like, I know he's got a tactic that's a little bit easier to throw. Like, he's done some things that I'm not saying that I know his bag better, because I don't, but he's just made some shaking off the rust mistakes. I don't necessarily think that he's out of it by any means. I think that he is more than better. I think we'll see a significant improvement, and he will be another top 5, top 3 disc golfer. If not this year, next year. This may be a recovery year for him. So, anyways, I think I've covered all of my mains here. I feel good about it. We've got a really awesome season coming up ahead of us, and we haven't gotten into Waco. We'll do that next week. But Nico won Waco. He's a champion over Waco, and I'd love to see him and his attitude get a bounce back, get another victory, bring one home to Texas, and then go to Austin, go to the Lone Star Open at Austin, and win for the home team. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see out of Nico. Let's just see the proper bounce back for the kid. He needs it. This man was drugged through social media last year, and it still continues to this day. However, man, let's give this guy a second chance and see if he can come through, because I would love to see it. Anyways, I think that's pretty much all I have for this show. I wanted to kind of pilot this thing and see how it went, made sure I kind of knew how I wanted to run through them. Gary, do you have anything else you want to chime in on?
Just here for support, bro. Just here so I don't get fined.
Yes, that's what we needed. Is you just sit there quietly with sunglasses on, eating some fucking Skittles.
Oh, next week.
Sunglasses
and Skittles.
Yeah, we're gonna talk Waco next week, and then Gary over here is just gonna be munching on some Skittles. But I hope I didn't spoil the challenge for anybody. If you haven't watched the challenge, I probably should have started the episode by saying this. If you haven't watched the Las Vegas challenge, please disregard this episode. Watch it first.
It finished 2 days ago. They had time.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. You've had time. So
that's your limitations.
Exactly. We will be back next week to talk about and preview Waco. If there's any other movement, anything else disc golf related that's happened since from now to next Tuesday, we will be sure to fill you in. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to check with us next Tuesday. It may be moved. I may have this come into 7 o'clock, 6:30, something like that, because we're going to hopefully get another episode of the Blitz in next week. And so, talking football off season, listen, Carson Wentz. Thanks, Wentz.
Only Carson Wentz can throw for 27 touchdowns and 6 picks, and everybody just be like, well, he got released.
Yeah, he fucking, shouldn't be surprised, bud.
Yeah.
He's the problem. Is that fucking Wentz, I tell you.
Yeah, fucking. We'll find out next year. No one to blame it on. You drafted the guy you're starting next year, Ron.
Oh, Ron. Ron's in for a rude awakening. Down by the river, Ron. Anyways. All right. This is Disc Golf. This is Backyard Chains, brought to you by Backyard Sports Media. My name is Raul Herrera. I got Gary Freeze with me. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.